Because we're live, I'm just going to summarize the discussion. We're just trying to determine whether we have quorum or not. We have quorum is like 8.5 people, or no, half is 8.5 people. Legal is arguing that would make it 10.
It's one more than one half. That's what the code provides.
So 9.5 people.
Right. So
Where's Charles?
We just need to
So we can round down to 9.
no.
Okay. So we need one more person. So we will. How do you see? Okay, we're waiting on that half person, 1.5 person. Oh. For everyone watching live, we're going to figure this out. Dakota! All right, now we have 9.5 people here. So all of our qualifications for quorum have been met. So I will now call the July 8th meeting of the Metro Human Relations Commission to order. I will also read this statement that we must now read. Pursuant to the provisions of 2.68030 of the Metropolitan Code of Laws, please take notice that the decisions of the Metro Human Relations Commission may be appealed to the Chancery Court of Davidson County for review under common law writ of certiorari. Any appeal must be filed within 60 days after entry of a final decision by the Commission. Any person or entity considering an appeal should consult with an attorney to ensure that time and procedural requirements are met. Okay. I'm very excited to be here. Before I go to public comments, I would just like to welcome our new members. Welcome, members. I'm going to name you so everybody knows, especially us around we've been quite busy and haven't had enough time to familiarize ourselves. So we've got Whitney Pastrick. Am I saying that correctly? Welcome, Whitney.
Thanks for having me.
Yep. Also, just remember, you always got to push this button or nobody will hear you on the YouTube.
Thanks for having me.
Awesome. Then we've got Darren. Hello, welcome.
Greetings, good to be among you.
Thanks for being here. We've got Todd McKinney. Welcome, Todd.
Thank you.
Thanks for being here. And then Aaron. Hello, Aaron.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, for sure. The microphones just matter because of the recordings and all the people watching at home. Okay, and then the usual stuff. Oh, and then Garlinda's got renewed. Is that correct? Yes, you did. And so did Ben. I did. Darren said hello. Welcome, Charles. Charles is old. Both figuratively and no, just kidding. All right, we are very friendly and playful on this commission. Okay, so let's move to public comments. I have public comments of a dear friend who I do not see present, so that's funny to me. Alicia Mrozik is supposed to be commenting. Have y'all seen her?
She is not able to make it. She sends a public statement, so read it out.
Okay, so you read it out for her.
Oh.
Would you like me to just...
Are you uncomfortable reading it?
I can censor it.
Okay, then please come and push the microphone and state your name, please. You can sit, and you got to push the button.
I'm speaking public comment on behalf of Alicia. Alicia is the head of the NNAC, the North Nashville Arts Coalition, which was one of the impacted organizations from this complaint. She's also an independent artist and a muralist and a business owner. From speaking with a number of artists, I think that everybody is kind of in agreement that this is a difficult situation with no right answers. And her comment is simply, F you, pay the artists.
Can you give your name as well? But we have to do that as part of the process for public comment.
I apologize. My name is Robert Jones.
Thank you, Robert. Okay, the next person is Lisa Valeri.
Push the green button. Okay. My name's Lisa Valeri, and I'm a working artist here in Nashville. And on behalf of all working artists here, and as a voting citizen of the city for more than 40 years, I just want to say that I think that there should be a hearing on truth and reconciliation. If you look around Nashville, you don't have to look very far to see the growth, and it doesn't align in my logic that with all the growth and expansion in our city, we're shrinking our support of artists. I think they're the fabric of the city. That's probably a big reason that people want to move here, for the quality of life. And besides the just the vision of the city growing and the arts shrinking, there's also, I mean, the money too. I mean, I can't imagine that our tax base is shrinking. It just doesn't align, and I would like more looking into this. Thank you.
Thank you for coming and for your comment. I have a comment that I think I should read. Hopefully it'll be within the time. Someone submitted that. I guess you can submit them online. This is from Mark Schlicker. And I'm just going to read it. As an officer of an arts micro nonprofit that has been seriously impacted by the funding debacle at Metro Arts, I first want to thank the Title VI complainants for their courage to file the complaint, and for the MHRC for your diligent investigation, and for the proposed conciliation agreement, which I know is a result of long and arduous discussions among various parties. Without rehashing the detailed history that is well known to all involved, I want to highlight a couple of points. I speak from my perspective of being a member of an organization that participated in both Thrive and Operation Support grant application. I also want to preface this by saying that neither I nor any member of our organization received a dime in compensation from Metro funds for our Thrive project. Every last penny went direct stipends for performing or demonstrating artists, over 20 in all, for required hard costs for our free public art and music festival. We proudly provided a platform for dozens of artists from underserved communities to share, sell, and profit from their work. Collectively, we put in thousands of volunteer hours. I personally put in many hundreds of hours of uncompensated labor and talent, all for the benefit of our diverse art community. So I experienced the effects of the ongoing mismanaged oversight of the Metro Arts Department by legal and finance very personally. So let me state plainly, none of this ongoing debacle was the fault of the artist, none of it. Any honest observer can see that. Whatever his shortcomings, the issues weren't all the fault of Daniel Singh. There's plenty of blame in many quarters. The artists and organizations trusted Metro, followed the rules. Metro then kept changing the rules up to this day. Whatever the issues were identified with Director Singh, they have continued or worsened after his departure up to this day. Decisions and actions continue to be made that continue to harm artists. As artists/orgs, we are being held to a double standard. We are being held accountable to follow rules, while Metro Legal/Finance can't or won't answer simple, reasonable questions about what those rules are. The audit is infected with an undercurrent of distrust of artists. This is embedded in the framing of risk analysis, which warns repeatedly that Metro money could potentially be abused by artists without a single substantiated example of an artist actually misusing or abusing funds. Why is the trust and accountability a one-way street? Thank you. Okay, I got to most of it. Should I read the personal requests? I guess I can't. 2 minutes has passed. So thank you, Mark, for submitting that. I hope you get to see this. And then I think that that's all I've got for that. So everyone, thank you for your public comments. Can people be added? Yeah, okay, that's fine. Do you want to go to the front and the mic? It looks like the mic is already on, and just state your name, please.
Hi, my name is Shakira Bally, and my company is called Mercademy, and I was actually one of the recipients of the full grant. And I'm here because I can't help but question what I was given the money for. And I know that may sound a little questionable as to why I'm asking, but to know that there are artists in this town, and I'm very new, and my company is 4 years old, and it's a seasonal business, and it's to promote swimming, promote water safety and conservation among the people, and do it in an artistic way. I can't help but feel that there's a bit of divisiveness, and the fact that my company doesn't say, it doesn't say culturally speaking that I'm an African-American woman-led type of business, that I was given the money. Now, I should be happy about that, but it makes me feel some kind of way which is indescribable right now. It just makes me feel as though there were artists in this town that should have also received the money. And then on top of that, what I had proposed to the board for the amount of money that I was asking and not having one of the people there to even hold me accountable to see how I'm doing with the community, I just felt that that was very much like a slap in the face, but I have to account for all the money. I just thought that that was just so, I just feel very passionate that it was wrong. And for me, it makes some type of divisiveness amongst artists in this town. I believe that we should all, as artists, be celebrated, and there should be unification because of the fact with that money that it was given. I wasn't sure who to partner with, who else was out there, who I can just collaborate with. And I think Nashville misses out on that. I think Nashville needs to know more about that. And so I believe that the board had fallen short with that. And so as someone who has received all the money, I just still feel, what's going to happen next year? On what merit did I receive all of that money? And if I apply, thank you. That was the gist of it. Thank you so much.
Can I ask for a point of clarification? I'm over here. I'm Ben.
Oh, yes.
Thank you for your comments, and thank you for coming. Mm-hmm. When you say board, do you mean the Metro Arts Commission, or what board do you mean?
The one who dispersed the money and who needs the transparency.
The Metro Arts Commission.
Right, whoever is in question.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Yes, thank you so much.
Thank you for your comment.
Thank you.
Okay. If there are no more public comments, we will go to the rather mundane but essential task of reviewing and approving our minutes. Every commissioner should have them. Typically they're sent to you in advance, but you can quickly scan through them. And for those of you that weren't here, obviously it's hard for you to know, but everybody else, we should look at them and determine. All right, you want to give me a motion?
I make a motion to approve the minutes.
Can I get a second? Second. Excellent. Anybody abstaining or against? Then the motion to approve minutes moves forward. Now we've got a financial update. I'm going to ask RAD.
Can we move Commissioner Jamla down this way? Because those are going to be for them and when they get up to speak. But you could sit there.
How are we going to do that? It's pretty tight.
Okay. I appreciate that.
There's a little bit of room over here.
Here you go, down here on this end.
Wait.
Very gracious of you.
Bye, Matthew. You want to move that nameplate that's in front of you? Yeah. Welcome, Commissioner.
Right.
Okay.
Thank you. Okay, the financial
Please
report.
do that.
What you have now, it would be the year end of what we spent through the year. This hasn't been trued up, is a financial department term, but it has not been trued up as of yet. What we're most excited about, though, is the council approval of an additional $256,000, I believe, into our budget coming up. And we're grateful for the council for approving it, putting it in the substitute budget. But more than anything else, we're grateful for you as commissioners who reached out to council members, who showed up at our budget hearing, who made this a success. We already had plans ready. So as we move on through this agenda down toward the bottom in the new business, we can share with you some of what we're doing with these new funds. So again, I appreciate you all for showing up and supporting us. Because I don't know, I just believe if y'all hadn't showed up, we wouldn't have been successful. So thanks.
That was incredible. Quite a group effort, and it's much deserved. So I'm very, very, these two are part of that group. And I'm very, very impressed with y'all's ability to request this and get it funded. That doesn't happen often. So I'm very excited for next year. I wanted to just add, I see like about 140,000 discrepancy between budgeted pay and what ended up being actuals. I know y'all were gonna move some stuff around.
Yeah, and if you notice, this is supplied by the Metro system. And so the May and June actuals aren't even in there yet. So it will narrow much, much more when they put those in.
And then did you get your request for reallocation of some of that money approved, and are you going to do that?
Yes. We have one piece that we're using for the public relations stuff that we had discussed earlier. That's still ongoing, and that's in the procurement process.
It's in the procurement process.
Yes.
Okay.
Could I ask a question?
Yes.
Is it the fiscal period? Is it July to June?
Yes.
Thank you.
Great question. I was just going to say, new commissioners, this was the part of the meeting that was the most confusing to me, just because it was like, there's not a lot of movement and it all kind of looks the same across the way. And so it's just kind of a high level review. And you can ask whatever questions you want and get more, but typically it's just kind of the high level of what's going on and how big our budget is. As you can see, it's a pretty tiny budget, but we got some added to it, which we're really excited about. Yes, Erin?
So just for clarification, this budget, the $765,000
Yes.
is last year's, and so there will be an additional $256,000 for next
Yes.
year, so about
Yes.
$1 million.
Yes.
Okay.
This was, what just ended, basically. So this is the end of that year. And next meeting, you're going to see a bunch of empty columns and just the first budget in the first month. And I guess we're going to see May. We probably won't even see May and June because you're going to give us a whole new budget probably.
Well, no, we would still need to give
Resolve
you that.
Okay.
I'm sorry about this button thing here. Thank you for working it for me, Ashley.
I don't leave it on.
Yes, we will give you the May and the June.
Okay, great. Then if there are no other questions, we'll move forward. Old business. Oh, exciting. New commissioner orientation has not happened yet. So we're just throwing you in the deep end here with this meeting. I don't know if y'all want to speak to some of this stuff.
Yes, on August 20th from 10 to 12 down at Shelby Bottoms, we plan on having a 2-hour orientation for all the new commissioners. And we would invite any of the other commissioners who might want to come to take part in this. So the whole point is to really explain to you what we're doing, how we do it, give you some resources and some links to resources that would help educate you in doing this job. So we hope to see you, and we'll be reaching out to try to lock down and make sure, particularly with our new commissioners, and again, if any of our older ones would like to join also.
Is there lunch?
Yes.
Okay. So
That is the
OG
enticement.
commissioners, I highly encourage us to show up if we can. I know we're all busy, but if you can show up, and At any point, right? We could come, at any point and actually hang out and meet the new commissioners. That would be great. And new commissioners, you may get a binder like this, and it's something we refer to all the time, especially the lawyers among us. So you will use it, hopefully, as we move forward.
Thanks. One more thing.
Yes.
I think I heard August 20th,
Yes.
10 to 12.
Yes.
All right.
You should see that also on the agenda.
Okay. Great.
Do you see? Yeah, it's under old business, new commissioner orientation. Okay, great. And then I'm going to hand it over to Davey to turn on his mic and talk about the conciliation agreement.
Okay. This is what we've all been looking forward to and waiting. And we have a conciliation agreement, and we'd like to discuss it. And at the end, I will ask Chair if she can get a motion to receive it. We're going to begin with Ashley, and then after Ashley, we'll have Mel, and then we have some of the complainants who will come and respond, and then I'll come back on the end to hand it back to you.
Just for the new commissioners, if you're not aware, this is the long-lasting arts complaint. This is kind of the culmination of all the work. They have been working with all the parties in confidential meetings discussing it, and this is their presentation to us because we have not been there, of what the conciliation agreement is, and then we get to deliberate it with the complainants and then decide.
Yeah, so welcome new commissioners, returning commissioners. I'm Ashley Batchelder. I serve as the Director of Policy and Research for the MHRC, and I've had the pleasure and burden of serving as the primary investigator. That was a joke. I'm trying to have some levity here. On the Title VI complaint and the primary author of the report. And so I've prepared what's probably going to feel like a bit of a lengthy statement, but I think it's important, especially for our new folks, to give you some background, as much as can be done for this conversation. So with that, bear with me here. So today we're bringing you a proposed conciliation agreement. If accepted, it will effectively close this Title VI complaint. And like I said, for the benefit of our new commissioners, to review for everyone, for the viewing audience, and for the record, I'm going to narrate and recap a bit of how we got here. So on May 22nd of this year, representatives from MHRC, Metro Arts Commission, Metro Legal, Metro Finance and Procurement, and the Title VI complainants met for over 2 hours in our first conciliation meeting. And then again on June the 13th, representatives from the MHRC, Metro Arts, and the complainants met again for further discussion. Additionally, the respective attorneys representing MHRC, Metro Arts, and Metro Legal had numerous meetings on their own, exchanged several memos, and had countless conversations to negotiate toward the outcomes that we're bringing you today. And I say that to say that this agreement is the result of these good faith negotiations. The Title VI complaint that was filed with our office last fall asked for 3 primary things in the complaint. Number 1, that the Metro Arts Commission honor the equitable funding allocations to independent artists as well as micro, small, and medium-sized organizations in the vote that had been reversed between July and August of 2023. The second thing was for the MHRC to investigate any potential conflicts of interest between Metro Arts Commissioners and arts organizations that receive public funding. And number 3, that large organizations be held to requirements to produce and report on community benefits that they provide to local artists and projects. Throughout our investigation and the conciliation process, we've been intentional to articulate what can be addressed through the MHRC Title VI complaint framework and what is better addressed through other channels. To date, for example, there have been complaints brought to the Board of Ethical Conduct, which is the entity with jurisdiction over allegations of conflict of interest violations, and there is pending legislation before the Metro Council to address some of the issues regarding funding criteria for arts grants. Many things have happened since the filing of the Title VI complaint, and this agreement is not a panacea to the compounding issues at Metro Arts. As we stated with the submission of our fact-finding report to you all in March, our priority has been to ensure payment to artists and organizations according to the vote that was overturned last summer. Much of our conciliation discussions have focused on ensuring a full commitment to this, with the inclusion of public art mural projects and dual awardees that we've talked about in our past commission meetings. Other recommendations that we included in our staff's fact-finding report that we believe fit Title VI included a recommendation to convene a public hearing and that any new funding model established by the Arts Commission be approved by the Metro Council that ensures equitable distributions in the future, as well as a recommendation that Metro Legal produce a procedure guide about the roles that Metro Legal plays in boarding commission operations. Conciliated remedies will never fully satisfy every problem that we seek to redress. We believe that there is no dispute that the agreement that we have for you today does fulfill the commitment to pay everybody. At the same time, we know that what we are bringing you does not bring clear solutions to the larger systemic issues that we have been discussing with our complainants, among our commission, with other stakeholders, the larger systemic issues. We know it does not address all of them completely. Before we discuss the terms of what is included in the agreement, I'm going to take another moment to summarize and substantiate the main crux of why we are here, and that is our finding of probable cause. So at the heart of the discrimination claim was what happened between July to August of 2023 that led the Arts Commission to change its vote on the fiscal year 2022-2023 grant allocation formula. In our investigation, we gathered facts to determine whether a legal opinion was the primary reason for rescinding the decision and whether one or more Metro Arts commissioners had contact or influence with Metro Legal so as to overturn that vote. We know that the provision of legal advice alone does not provide the basis for a Title VI violation. However, our fact-finding investigation suggested that Metro Legal's influence on the decision-making process went beyond just giving legal advice. Furthermore, our independent legal counsel provided an analysis that supports a conclusion that another reasonable opinion could have been made about July's vote, and we've not been provided information that details how Metro Legal came to their decision and their position, their opinion. And so, bear with me. I'm going to lay out the facts as we understand them. On July 20th, 2023, so a year ago, we're here a year later, the Arts Commission voted to fund small organizations and independent artists at higher amounts than the agency ever had before. Commissioners considered multiple funding scenarios that allocated different amounts to organizations based on organization size. Part of the materials provided to arts commissioners included racial impact data that specified the dollar amount as overall white impact and BIPOC impact that would result for any given scenario if selected. The commission approved the scenario that provided the highest level of support to individual artists and organizations in the small, medium, and micro-size categories. This scenario also had the highest BIPOC impact dollar amount. During the deliberations, a commissioner asked Metro Legal if considering the racial impact figures would violate equal protection under the Supreme Court's new decision, which was referring to the Students for Fair Admissions versus Harvard ruling that struck down the legality of race-conscious affirmative action in college admission programs, which had just happened 22 days earlier. Metro Legal responded that they hadn't reviewed the case yet, but the application process for the arts grants had been approved up until then. Through this discussion, so in the Arts Commission discussion, multiple people in the room continued to emphasize that white impact and BIPOC impact numbers were about showing impact that the scenarios would have, and that the scenarios were based on the size of the organization, not race. So that's what happened on July 20th. Sometime in the next 4 days following that meeting, we know that the commissioner who asked this question was in contact with the Metro Law Director to suggest that the legality of the vote may need to be considered. So then 5 days after that commission meeting, and they took their vote to fund independent and small organizations at the higher levels, The Associate Director of Law furnished an 8-sentence memo to the Arts Executive Director about the Harvard Supreme Court ruling. This memo briefly stated that race cannot be used as a way to distinguish between applications and that the Equal Protection Clause forbids treating people differently based on skin color. This memo included no citations or application of how this related to the Commission's vote. About 2 weeks after that, a closed executive session was held. According to Commissioner accounts, Metro Legal advised or told them that the Commission's actions may be unconstitutional because of the inclusion of BIPOC and white impact dollar amounts, and because the discussion at the Commission meeting included too much focus on race. And according to Commissioner accounts, they were told that they should consider rescinding their vote. Based on Commissioner testimony shared in interviews during our investigation, we believe that Metro Legal may have presented this as a policy directive above and beyond giving legal advice or explaining legal options. So in other words, that the commissioners were told they had to rescind their vote. So briefly, that's what we believed happened last summer. Important to note here is that we attempted voluntary conciliation at multiple points between December 2023 and up until the release of our report in March of 2024. In December, we submitted several questions to Metro Legal about how they reached their position, and those questions went unanswered. What we instead received was a memo from Griffin & Strong, which is a law firm that almost exclusively concentrates on the crafting and implementation of disparity studies. This memo explained why Metro Arts should complete a disparity study in order to legally use race-conscious grant criteria. While this memo is unobjectable on its face, we maintain our position that it does not actually address the facts around the contested July vote. And we strongly believe that the reliance on saying we need a disparity study really obfuscates and misdirects from what actually happened in the July Arts Commission meeting. I'm almost done. So we obtained independent legal counsel, to my left, from an experienced civil rights attorney. She provided a robust legal analysis to opine on whether the Arts Commission violated the Equal Protection Clause in its July funding decision. Her analysis justified the many ways that public entities can undertake efforts to eliminate racial disparities through race-neutral means while still considering racial impact without triggering strict scrutiny under the Equal Protection Clause. The analysis emphasized the differences between policy decisions based on racial classifications that are forbidden by the Constitution and really distinguished those from the actions undertaken by the Arts Commission. So finally, reasonable people can disagree over legal interpretations. And even if we disagree over the level of risk that the July vote carried, we believe that this analysis demonstrates that the July vote was defensible. But commissioner accounts of what happened in the executive session do not provide any evidence that it was treated as such, that it was treated as defensible, and that they didn't need to rescind that vote. So these details are described in our fact-finding report, which supported a finding by the MHRC executive director that discrimination probably occurred. The Metro Code requires the MHRC to continue conciliation efforts after a probable cause finding. We work toward this while concurrently planning for a public hearing, knowing that conciliation is a strong policy preference under Title VI. Had we not reached a conciliation agreement, then the purpose of a public hearing would be for the MHRC public hearing commissioners, 3 of you here, to gather and further assess the information that was collected during our investigation and the staff's findings that ultimately led to a finding. By our presentation of this agreement to you today, we are telling you that we have reached a proposed agreement in principle, which, if approved by you, will negate the necessity of a public fact-finding hearing. It is our understanding that all other parties and participants will accept the agreement if you also vote to accept the terms in principle. And so I'm going to ask Mel to give you the details of the agreement. Then, like Davey said, we want to give substantial time for some of the Title VI complainants who are here today to respond, tell you what they think about it. And then Davey will wrap it up, and then we will hand it over to you. So, Mel, you have the mic to explain the details.
Great. Thank you so much, Ashley. That was a very good summary of a lot of information and a year of work. I'm Mel Fowler Green. I have the great distinction of sitting in Director Tucker's seat in my past. I am a former director of the Metro Human Relations Commission, been a civil rights attorney for almost 24 years. And I really thank you all for your trust in me and allowing me to represent you and provide you with legal advice through this matter. All right, so the proposed agreement consists of a make-whole payment and 7 additional components. So the make-whole payment, it is a payment to muralists and the small and micro organizations who were not included in the allocation of supplemental payments that were approved in March of this year. Right. So if you will recall, on March 22nd, I believe it was, that Director Kevin Crumbo of Metro Finance and Metro Legal approved additional supplemental payments that did not include all of the Thrive applicants who would have otherwise been eligible for funding had we not found ourselves in this situation. So the additional payment is about $564,000 in funds to artists and small organizations, bring the total of funds provided in response to the complaint and in response to this investigation to approximately $2,278,000. So in addition to that additional payment, 7 components. First, a commitment by Metro Legal and Finance and Metro Arts to liberalize and extend spending and reporting requirements until March 31st of 2025 for any artist who, or March 30, I'm sorry. It may be March only has 30 days, so you'll have to forgive me. To the end of March 2025. For any artist who received supplemental payments since the March 22nd allocation, and an extension until June 30 of 2025 for those artists and organizations who will receive supplemental funding as a result of this conciliated agreement. This also includes working with MHRC staff regarding communications to the community and to those artists about these extensions. Second component, an agreement to share with MHRC staff, particularly Ashley, in real time the ongoing list of all recipients who are receiving supplemental funding, both pursuant to the March 22nd allocation and any subsequent conciliation agreement. Third, Metro Legal and Metro Finance will commit to work with the Metro Arts Commission, with Metro Human Relations Commission, with Metro Council, and any other necessary stakeholders to find a legal path forward to protect the Thrive program or something substantially identical, which allows for payment to individual and independent artists. So let me put this one into context for everyone. The Thrive program at Metro Arts has provided funding to individual artists for about 10 years. Historically, those grants were relatively small and were paid through an arrangement between Metro Arts and Metro Procurement. as part of Metro Arts equity plans, the funding to small organizations and to individual artists through Thrive sort of grew. And when the parties and participants here started working on possible resolutions to this complaint, including these make-whole payments, the attorneys, including me, all agreed that direct payments from Metro Arts to individuals outside of contracted artists who, provide work for Metro's benefit, right? So payments to individuals from Metro Arts is not authorized under state law. So I understand the frustration and skepticism expressed by community members and by many of you here, over the fact that the Thrive program provided direct funds for years to individuals. And it wasn't until a greater proportion of funds were allocated to BIPOC artists and organizations, and then this complaint, that the legality of the program was then investigated. I absolutely share that frustration and skepticism. But I also do nonetheless agree that the payment structure used to date is not clearly authorized by state law. So our proposed conciliation agreement is a commitment to continue to provide public funding for individual artists and micro organizations. The goal here is that Thrive continue. It will just have to look procedurally different. So one proposal being considered now is having the funds allocated to Metro Arts through council legislation for that purpose, and then have the funds transferred to and then disseminated by a nonprofit to comply with state law. Because Metro Arts, under the state law, they can provide funding to nonprofit organizations, not to individuals. So the exact path forward is still being explored, but through this agreement, what we're doing is securing the commitment to finding that path and to protect both the spirit and the goals of the Thrive program. And I know I've heard people describe this as, potentially privatizing Thrive. And I would only push back on that to the extent that this will, as I understand it, there's a commitment through this agreement to continue to provide public funds for this purpose. Rather, it's just a change in the mechanism by which the funds get disseminated. Fourth condition, Metro Legal commits to create clearer guidance for boards and commissions, specifically about the role of Metro Legal in board and commission operations, right? So they'll not only address housekeeping matters, but and conflicts of interest, but also better explanations about legal's role in the policymaking process. Metro Legal has also committed to allow MHRC staff and their independent counsel to provide feedback on a draft before anything is disseminated. Fifth, the Metro Arts Commission commits to robust community engagement about any new grant policies and procedures, and they commit to have that feedback considered. As we work toward a final written conciliation agreement, Metro Arts will develop a more detailed plan and timeline for that community engagement. And our goal then is to have benchmarks and timelines actually embedded in the final written agreement. 6, Metro Arts Commission agrees to an additional hour-long conciliation meeting with the MHRC staff and council and 2 complainant representatives with the purpose of creating greater shared understanding of past grant policies and procedures. And, if there are any further additional parameters for that meeting, those will be negotiated in good faith. And finally, a signed agreement by July 31st that will include all the material terms, benchmark dates for future obligations. It will also include no admission of liability by any parties or participants, a full and final release of legal claims by the complainants, and a dismissal of the complaint with prejudice by this body. So that's the proposal in principle that we're asking you to consider today.
Thank you both for that presentation. I just wanted to point out, I was following along on this letter, and it's missing 5 and 6, and then this letter has 5 and 6. So for everybody that's wondering that, and one of them is on behalf of Arts, and what's this one
On behalf of Metro Legal. Yeah. So
this is Metro Legal?
That's right. So
okay.
For clarification, I asked both counsel for Metro Legal and Metro Arts to provide something to me in writing prior to this meeting, so there would not be any question about what was on the table.
So since Metro Legal decided to omit 5 and 6 in this letter,
the reason they omitted 5 and 6 is because 5 and 6 are within Metro Arts
to do.
Right. So so Metro Legal wasn't taking a position with regard to the two provisions that were solely within Metro Arts purview.
Got it. Okay. And this total number of $2,278,000 is not stated in any of these letters that I could find. That you said.
That is right, but my understanding is that Ashley confirmed this morning with a representative from Metro Finance on what they believed to be the total.
Okay. You have it in an email or something like that?
Do you want that?
Oh, yeah. So where that number comes from is with the March 22nd announcement. Many of you were at our executive committee meeting that we held, and the announcement came out from the mayor's office that there is a commitment to pay 96 Thrive awardees and organizations the higher of the two votes. That was 51 organizations. And then with this additional conciliation agreement, there's an additional 26 individual artists, the majority of whom are muralists, plus 13 additional organizations who were excluded from March 22nd. So that's what a lot of our negotiations have been around, is fulfilling everybody who has a claim to this. So when you add that all up, it is 122 individual artists totaling 1.3 million and 64 organizations who are receiving the higher vote, which is that July vote, totaling just under $1 million. So that in total, it's the 2.3 million.
I do want to make one clarification, that we believe that's the number, but we are still going to have to come to an absolute agreement about who the muralists were and which among the mural applicants scored high enough to have received funding had the funding been approved, right? So we're not there. The agreement is not to fund grant applicants who did not meet the original threshold. So we haven't gotten to like that point yet, but we all agree that that's who is included.
Okay, thank you.
Make sense? Okay.
I believe this is when the complainants speak and then the commission speaks. Is that correct? Is that okay, commissioners, if we hold until they speak? Okay. Who would like to? Anybody?
And we've allocated 20 minutes for this, and they're going to break that time up however they feel appropriate.
Hi, thank you for having us here. I'm Christine Hall with Arts Equity Nashville, one of the original Title VI complainants, and I do want to start by expressing appreciation for Metro Human Relations commissioners and staff members. The amount of time and attention that you have devoted to this matter, I know it's a lot. I know because we've been following along with you. And to have a department within our government that's actually interested in representing the people and being human with us, that's invaluable. And it's clearly meant a lot to a lot of actual citizens and artists here in Nashville. So in the interest of that, we want to continue our advocacy today by taking this time to be heard. And again, thank you for giving us that chance. We know that these points of conciliation were fought for, and we appreciate that fight. We want to note that going into this, we didn't just want to make it right going backwards, because as has come out through this process, the inequity has been a persistent problem and pervasive in Metro government, not just in Metro Arts and Metro Legal and Metro Finance, but it's an issue. And anybody can take a step back and see that and see the way it has real effects on real people. And we're coming here as citizens and artists to try and correct that, not just on behalf of ourselves, but on behalf of the community. We've been listening to community members. And part of the issue here is we don't feel that the full breadth of our demands were actually ever heard. We understand that it's important, chiefly, to get that money back that was taken away after it was awarded through our advocacy, and now through our advocacy, it's been given it back. But we've still got this amount hanging over our heads that was withheld from muralists and public artists, right? And so we're being pressed into an agreement that doesn't go far enough. It stops short of ensuring this won't happen again. We've got some goodwill gestures on this list. You know, they say that they're going to do robust community engagement. We know that that's not a solid commitment. We know, of course, our advocacy is going to have to continue, but I'm just here to state plainly, as somebody who doesn't stand to benefit directly from this, but just as a citizen, as an artist who's lived in Nashville a long time and wants to see us flourish and thrive and knows how the arts energizes and always pays off more than what's invested in it. This isn't enough, all right? Like, we appreciate what you've done. So many of us are ready to go along. So many people are exhausted, but we just want to be heard. That there are certain issues, such as Metro Legal is holding to this idea that they didn't do anything wrong. On our original list of demands, that's been amended so many times now. You know, it went down from the original complaint to May 20th before we entered conciliation. We had 2 pages, and then we did a counteroffer on June 19th, and we've got these stand-ins for real requests we made, and they just don't quite rise to the moment. I mean, you've heard in the public comments that people are calling for a public hearing for truth and reconciliation. There's an appetite for transparency in our government, for exposing corruption and rooting it out. There's an appetite. I know we've got to go to council and get legislation passed that's going to ensure equity, not just by defining it, but by instituting policies that we can all adhere to realize this. But the thing is, we don't even have a solid agreement from Metro Arts Commission that they're going to work with us to do it. I don't feel that they've engaged in this in good faith. I don't feel that Metro Legal engaged in good faith. I don't feel that Metro Finance did. They botched it. They point at BIPOC leaders and pick out these small failings. And then they go and they fail in big ways, and they won't even admit to that. There's no apology. They won't even admit that the legal opinion they issued did not apply to the situation they were asked about. And it's clear from reading the report, or even an outsider looking in, it didn't apply. It wasn't the question asked. Why are you giving a different answer? We have no indication that they're going to behave differently. I want to also, within this time, I very much appreciate independent counsel's expertise and experience on this. I am not a lawyer, clearly. We've been forced to represent ourselves throughout this process and donate much of our time I read the law. I see where it is not clearly authorized by state law to pay individuals, but I don't see where it's prohibited. And I've asked multiple times and nobody's shown me that. I read it and it says basically that the arts commissions can award payments to organizations without further approval of the local legislature. But it doesn't say that they can't do it for independent. It just says they won't need to get further approval to do it. So I don't understand. Maybe there's something I'm missing, but I just think that there's a lot of open issues. And I don't want to take up more of your time because we've got 2 other complainants here. There's so much I want to say because I'm like, through all of this, I still, even though we wrote that long complaint and we love the report, it shows that there's probable cause for the discrimination that we alleged. But I don't think that any of our points have really been given the attention by the Arts Commission or legal that they were really due. And I need to be out with that, and then I will yield my time. Thank you so much.
Thank you for your comment. Who else is speaking?
Thanks. My name is Robert Jones. I'm an artist, and my educational background is in politics. And I have a particular interest in, I guess, social history and community. And I'm not going to talk about too much about facts or details because I'm assuming that everybody here kind of knows that. I just kind of want to talk about my own experience and my own feeling, because feelings matter in politics, because how people feel is a gauge of how well the government is serving them and how well the legal institutions and other institutions are serving the people. And the optics here are not good. The optics here, when people feel bad, that means that the governments and the institutions that are serving them have failed them. And so I think that feeling is really important. And I'm going to speak to that because I'm more qualified to speak to that than I am on the technicalities of this. So as an artist, I moved to Nashville in 2010. I have family from Nashville. I've traveled around a bit. I grew up coming back and forth. I grew up in London. I am an artist, as I said. I just want to give a brief list of the things that I do to get by and pay the bills, because it's not through art. So I have an arts and picture framing business. I do picture framing. I am the arts editor for Nashville Interiors magazine. I'm the building manager for the 100 Taylor Arts Collective in Germantown. I'm the chair of the Germantown Arts Committee for the Germantown Historic Society. And as well as that, more recently, I'm an advocate. Now, my interest in arts and arts funding is because when you look at the creative communities, which is what I've always grown up in. I grew up in a creative community in London. I've spent time living in DC. I've got friends in New York. And wherever I go, I'm always in the bohemian, artsy crowd. That's just what I'm drawn to. And I think that the value of that in society is what it can say about our culture and what it can reflect about our culture. And so when I look at arts funding, I think it's really important, because more so than anything else, arts funding is about funding our cultural input and our cultural representation as a people and as a community. And I think that that's really valuable. I don't want to just see a bunch of really bland corporate art and know that oh yeah, corporations are paying for this art. McDonald's just gave a big contract to this artist to paint a big McDonald's mural. That's great to support the arts community, but when it comes to cultural input, that's where public funding is really important, because that's not what gets funded. As one of the muralists who was not paid in the initial funding, what that grant would have done to me, it was a grant for $18,000 to do a very large mural. What that would have done to me would be allow me and my assistant to take an entire month painting a large mural on the side of the building without having to worry about paying the bills in other ways. It would have given me a break for 1 month to work on a really, really personal arts project that would have been a really large mural in the city that included adding, as part of this, I negotiated with the building owners to include adding about 3,000 square feet of public green space to the Greenway in Germantown, and they were going to curate that and do some planting and make it really pretty. And that would have given me the ability to do a really significant piece of public art that I think really would have helped me with my career and also helped serve the community. Now, the optics of what happens is that Metro Legal overstepped their bounds by saying that, by bringing in the Supreme Court ruling on affirmative action to pressure Metro Arts to recast their vote and vote again. Many people from Metro Arts, I think it's important to recognize, have said on statement, and as a result of this investigation, that they felt that they were pressured into not just recasting their vote, but changing the vote. And that's outrageous to me, not just because of the way it impacts arts funding, but how that impacts things like how that could impact other areas like public housing. And if Metro Legal for Nashville is choosing to interpret the law in this way, that's scary to me. That's really scary to me, because this was a race-neutral vote. I don't know if you've noticed, I'm not just white, I'm English. That is not like, that's not like a tick box on diversity. This affects everyone, and this is just about doing the right thing for what's good for the city. And as a result of this, I want to thank all the work that the MHRC have done. I've spent so much time trying to speak to as many people as I can to try and figure out how this happened, who's to blame, blah, 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 blah. I think that the Metro Arts Commission passed a historic voting. They voted for historic equity and in the July vote. I think that was great. I think they were pressured to rescind that. I think that the council members of this city, by and large, have on both sides of the political spectrum, have done a really good job at supporting us. And I want to thank both the council members and the commissioners for all of those groups. But I can't get over the fact that Metro Legal have interpreted the law as such, in such a way that I feel is heinous. And as a result of this, yes, we've got the funding back, but they haven't acknowledged that that was the wrong way to interpret that. I'm going to leave this up in just a minute. They haven't acknowledged that that was the wrong way to interpret that, and they haven't backed down from that. Now, implied in this agreement is the idea that they were wrong in that. I think that implication is very heavy. You don't get a multi-million-dollar payout if they're in the right, because government doesn't work that way. But we haven't had it on comment, on record, that they were wrong, and I think that that's a disservice to this community, and I think that that is a failing of the institution of Metro Legal to the people that they serve, and that's why we're all really unhappy about this. Now, we all disagree on what should happen moving forward. This is not a situation that anybody's happy with. Me personally, I will say, after speaking with the muralists, I think that we need to close this chapter, make sure that the muralists get paid. I think that's the most important thing. And not just the muralists, but also the public artists and arts organizations who have still not been paid. And I think we need to move on to pressuring the Commission and the Arts Commission and councillors in the city to support equitable funding in other ways. But the optics here are really bad, and even with this agreement, we've taken several steps back since last July's vote. And with that, I'm going to cede my time to Lydia, and I'm sorry for taking up so much. Thank you.
Thank you for your comment. I believe we have about 5 minutes left. Is that okay, Lydia?
It's okay.
Or 4, yeah.
If I could have 10, but...
we also have a couple of council members that would like to speak, and thank you for being here, public elected officials. Can you try to do it? And
I'll do my best. I'll cut as many as I can.
do you want a warning or anything like that?
Yeah.
Would
Is
that
there
be
a
helpful?
time? Yeah.
Okay.
Do my best. Just like, yeah. As much as possible.
Yeah.
You,
At least a minute or two because we've interrupted her time.
Yeah, for sure. We'll do it from the time we start. So we'll give you about 5 minutes and give you a warning at 4 minutes. Is that clear? Okay.
We've heard a lot of legalese for a full year and currently in this room. And I feel as though, my name is Lydia Youssef. I'm one of the Title VI complainants. And I think a huge tenet of white supremacy is that we disassociate from ourselves and from our feelings and from this impact, and we erase the human impact of this. So I wanted to make sure that that is front and center here today. Audre Lorde said, "I feel, therefore I am." So I want to make sure we're centering that. I want to start by thanking Reverend Davy Tucker and Ashley Batchelder and the MHR team and the Commission for countless hours for the past year in remedying the harm they did not cause. In a government system that is choosing to resist the people, I know they have put their necks out for us and have kept a clear conscience to stand on the right side of history, because one day this moment will be studied, and our descendants will ask where we were and who we believed and what we did. And I am proud to have known y'all through this process and the measure of your character. I chose today to read a portion of my public comment to the Arts Commission on August 17, 2023, which was not recorded, to advocate against the defunding, because right now in this room, we are in the same spot going into fiscal year 2025. From what I see, we again have a legal department choosing to withhold funds from Nashvillians for the sake of securing subsidies for the art monopolies going forward. We are back at that round table, an artist between each commissioner in August, 2 hours of public comments to hear from artists about their labor and their creation. Earlier today, I was in an ethics hearing against a commissioner who complained or claimed she was merely doing her job by being objective about finances and standards, despite harming thousands of Thrive recipients and community members by her decision to defund and to derail meetings. What's sadder, this meeting was followed by an ethics complaint against the council member on a very small violation, not really any violation. And the accuser had grievances about the council member not allowing his zoning request, which is very, and found that she had failed to disclose where her mom lives, and she was found in violation. But the person who has harmed hundreds of people in Nashville was not. So I understand that there's a push for legal. I know there's a push to understand the code, but at one point in this country, a lot of things were legal, and a lot of things were pushed as separate but equal. And that, to me, does not stand before us today as an excuse for what's about to happen. In Nashville, just like on March 4th, I stood before y'all, before the report, and there were Nazis who had marched at the end of Black History Month. Today, a couple months later, a few days ago, Nazis were marching freely in Nashville. We are hearing the same echo of history. Reagan differentiating between crack and cocaine to incriminate Black brothers and sisters, white governors saying, but the law says separate but equal, so segregation must stand. We are in another moment for civil rights. Black and brown people are being criminalized for speaking out. When we started this, we had many artists who today benefited, who told me, I can't sign on to this Title VI complaint because I will get blackballed by Metro Arts. I started this process a year ago knowing I was risking our organization's funding. And I was fine with that because as a woman of color, resiliency is in my blood, unfortunately. I listened as white people like Benjamin Smith from Southern Word complained that his $1 million organization would lose $10,000 this year from Metro Arts if it was paid to people of color. And I stood up during my public comment and I said, the reason y'all are upset is because you're being treated like people of color and are told to figure it out. And that's why we're here today. White people in the city cannot fathom being equal to us. And that makes sense. Here's a legal department that has provided us this offer, pitting artists against one another. Here's a legal department that has told BIPOC we are a liability. If white people attack safety and take out the teeth of the CRB, legal will enable. If white people attack health equity, at the health department as reverse racism, legal will enable. If BIPOC want funds from nonprofits that keep them safe around the defunct Office of Community Safety, legal will let those contracts go unfulfilled, last I heard. If white people want subsidies for their boards where Ingrams and Frist sit, legal will enable. I want to emphasize what this is because it's not conciliation. Just like that vote was not the proper legal decision for Nashvillians or our will as a people. This is a shame that we are being forced to sign to have the muralist paid. It's classic white supremacy pitting artists against one another, those who have been paid and those who haven't, to maintain the status quo. We sit here discussing whether or not we pay muralists today, or we go to the courts or risk our payments instead of a people and a government standing against white supremacy. So no, it's not conciliation. As James Baldwin said, what do you want me to reconcile myself to? I was born here almost 60 years ago. I was gonna live another 60 years. If you have told me, you always have told me it takes time. It's taken my father's time, my mother's time, my uncle's time, my brother's and my sister's time, my nieces and my nephew's time. How much time do you want for your progress? Part of my statement that was not recorded on August 17th, during one of our art classes for South Nashville kids in a room of Egyptian, Ethiopian, and Latinx kids, we wrote a song together with a Nashville songwriter in English. One of the Egyptian girls asked the songwriter, a white woman, "So what do you do then?" The white woman responded, "Oh, I'm a songwriter and a nanny." The Egyptian girl replied, "What is a songwriter?" The white woman answered, "I write music for singers like Taylor Swift, you know." The Egyptian girl said, "That's a job." We didn't have time to explore this question.
Just one more minute.
Okay. This dilemma with the kids that day, but these are the conversations we have with our kids. The singer even said, "Well, you're in Music City." And she said, "What does that mean?" We have had people who want to do a Nashville Arab Film Fest. We have had an Egyptian Muslim woman who plays Daoud, the Arab lute, that has not gotten funding. We have people who want to start an Arab festival here, but can't do that. We have people who want to do movie nights and cinematography in the Arab Film Festival, like we do in Chicago and LA, and it's funded by the city. We can't do that here in Nashville. We have people who want to restart the Arab newspaper that died with the editor. We can't do that. We have people who are world-class artists and papyrus artists and painters here living in Nashville who are very well known in Egypt and here. We can't fund them. They can't create art here. They can't even pass on that tradition here. We have people there are about 15 Coptic Orthodox churches. A lot of them are painted by painters. I'll finish this thought. Who have not gotten funding and who are unable to get funding. So I'm going to urge this commission, even though we're all tired, to do that within your power to resist letting white supremacists take this moment from us. I'm going to urge y'all to call for a public hearing for truth and reconciliation, to speak with the artists and let us speak freely.
Thank you, Lydia. Thank you for that comment. Yeah, thank you for that. I believe that was excellent. Sam, Joy, South, do you want to speak quickly? Okay. That's all the complainants. And now there's been a request by Councilmember Stiles to make a comment, and then we, the commission, can discuss. I recognize that it's 5:15.
The chair.
Yes.
Would it be possible to ask speakers or for them to share their comments for folks who haven't been able to finish their time to maybe share their speeches with us through offline? Yeah.
Sure. I mean, I think they can submit them. Yeah, that's fine. And we can disperse them. State your name, please.
Getting my notes together. My name is Joy Stiles. I am the councilwoman for District 32 in Antioch. I first of all wanted to thank each and every one of you for being willing to stand behind this effort in recognizing the inequity that has been taking place in this city for decades, and listening to complainants that were strong enough and brave enough, and thank you, for being willing to put your face and your name to this. As someone who has been fighting regarding Metro Arts for the last 3 years, this is just the latest iteration. The courage that it takes to actually stand up and fight for others who are uncomfortable to speak and to right wrongs and hold people accountable is tremendous. So I'm grateful for you all for being willing to take it on. Thank you, Executive Director Tucker. Thank you, Ms. Bouchelder, for everything that you've done. I'm a little emotional because I'm super worn out. I have done a lot of fighting by myself over the course of this battle. I have had some council members that have come to Metro Arts meetings, that have come to the report when it was first given and shown that they cared and asked questions, and many others that wondered what was happening but also were fearful and didn't want to get involved, or they liked Director Dietz or Director Crumbo. And none of that matters when we're talking about taxpayer money, frankly. Your reporting was sound. Our problem is and was the directors of Metro Finance and Metro Legal with extreme overreach and slander. And I think it is offensive that we sit here today doing either or instead of both and. There is no reason why we cannot have justice for Thrive artists and for muralists, and also say, hey, let's take some accountability for our actions. To me, what I've seen is that Metro Legal would like to sweep this report under the rug. Let's pretend it never happened. And again, let's do some more status quo action. I am someone who wants artists to get paid. I cannot say that enough. I've said it since this first started. That is the most important thing. When we voted for $2 million last year to go to these artists to be distributed, that was the goal. But if now all the machination over all of these months has been for artists that are supposed to get paid to still feel like they're losing, then we're not winning. And again, I thank everyone for all the time. The conciliation, I know that has been very, very difficult. I am unclear what happens if the crumbs from the table that are being offered are not accepted. But I would say I would fight alongside any of you to take it to the next level. Because if all we're going to do is sit here and have conversations amongst ourselves that are willing to hold people accountable and then let people go back to their beds tonight and say, well, we won another war, we're going to keep people trampled down, we haven't succeeded. And it's going to take a collective to say that change is required and that we demand it. And I don't think this is it. And I realize that I am not one of the artists. But having heard the things that I've heard and seen the things that I've seen on my side of the fence, it's disgusting. And there is no lesson that will be learned at the end of this if this settlement gets taken. We go back to same old, and everyone says, oh my gosh, you guys are so nice and you've been helpful on so many pieces of legislation or whatever I wanted for my budget request. And then we wait for the next situation like this to show up. Thank you. That's not fair to anybody. The blood, sweat, and tears of anyone on this commission, any council members that have participated in fighting this fight, and for darn sure, not the artists that have come up here to share what their plight has been. It costs something to change things. And I think we need to be willing to pay that price. And I think I had one last thing to say, if I can open my own phone. I did want to say that for me, moving forward, my commitment, I've said this and I want it on the record as many places as I can. My goal is to get funding for the Arts Commission to $10 million before the end of this term, so that we actually have some skin in the game, because right now we really have none. And right now, as art commissioners are being presented to us from the mayor, who's barely said peep on any of this, we, as an arts committee, and I'm chair of the arts committee, have been asking questions about arts commissioners and what their background is and what they want to do, so we don't end up here again. Because that's really where the change has to start. We have to pick better people. And we have to stop blindly rubber stamping just because it comes from the mayor's office that it's actually a good person. Because we've already learned, even with some of the new people we've put on this year, we've picked a couple of bad apples. But we do have many good new people, and they have done their jobs. So we just need to fill those additional spots with good people. But thank you, Chair, for allowing me to speak.
Thank you so much for coming. Sounds like it was not an easy day today. Okay. Executive Director, would you like to speak? And then we've
Last one on your agenda there.
Oh, really? Okay, you're on my agenda. And then I know commissioners probably want to speak as well. And then I two things I just want to clarify, or maybe you're going to clarify it. So go ahead and I'll chime.
No,
I mean, the two things I'm a little, the disparity between the public comment and what's been said over here. From my understanding, everyone is getting paid. Can I just ask a yes or no question? And then in terms of the muralist, those that got the highest threshold of the criterion will get paid. And those have been cleared.
Yes, that's right.
Do we know how many of those that is? How many? 26 muralists will get paid.
Yes.
That met some objective criterion back early on. And all the money is going out. Okay, now you can...
Which equals to an additional 500,000.
Yeah, okay, now you can speak, David.
Okay. First, I just want to state for the record that I am extremely grateful to the staff of MHRC for their dedication and their willingness to wade into this deep water. I owe a special expression of gratitude to Ashley as the lead investigator who shepherded us through this whole entire process. And I'm also grateful to you, Madam Chair, and all the commission who, without your steadfast, unwavering support, we wouldn't even be having this discussion, period. You could have shut it down right out the gate. So we're grateful for that. But also to the chair and the members of the Public Hearing Commission, Commissioners Trauber, Burton, and Tran, who gave extra time to meeting and planning for a public hearing, but also questioning us, pushing us, providing information, asking questions that became part of this whole process. That all of this was critical to where we are right now. I also have to thank members of the Metro Council, just as you heard Councilmember Stiles, but I see Councilwoman Aaron there, who have been staunch supporters all along. This issue, who am I missing? Oh, I did not see I want to start over and call the budget chair's name first. Budget Chair, Councilwoman Delisa Porterfield, and others who, not only for their support, but their interest in this issue. I believe all those components, not just our work, have brought us to this moment right here. And even a thank you to Mayor O'Connell and his staff who have pushed for a conciliated agreement on this. It's all of those things that go into this moment. But I just want to say a couple things. Conciliation right off the rip. If there's a door with conciliation on it and you're going to walk through it, you have to say and you have to admit, I'm not going to get everything I want. Or you don't go through that door. That you just threw me off there. I don't do that well. But the idea that this was a conciliated agreement predetermines the outcome anyway. It predetermines it. So I'd like to think that we, with Mel, gave up this, but we got this. We gave up this, and we got that. We gave up this, and we got that. But no, I'm also conflicted within myself about the ultimate resolution. But from the beginning, we trying to adhere to what our documents say, is we were conciliating all along. The one thing that I've said in all the meetings I've been in, the one thing we will not give up on is the payment of the people to be made whole. And so to achieve that, that in and of itself is a win. As Mel read off, there are some other policy-related issues that are also on the table. So as I'm ultimately going to ask that you would take a vote and to accept this conciliated agreement, I cannot, and I don't want any of my words or actions to be misconstrued or to minimize anything that the complainants have ever said. I agree with them in principle also, but I see the limits of MHRC as an institution. And I think we've done a yeoman's job to get it to this point where we are now. We've been in multiple meetings. We've gone back and forth. No, it's not over. There is pending litigation. There is an existing law that would also say that. We are not giving up on our push. As long as you all agree, we'll be back in front of you again with something else that will test your own moxie about how far you're willing to wade out into the pool with us also. And with that being said, and you've heard me say before, everything legal ain't right. And so that's just the isness over against the altness that we don't have in the world. And so I would strongly suggest that as you deliberate and talk, that you would vote to approve and accept this conciliated agreement of the Title VI complaint, realizing that there are unresolved issues still on the table that are important. But as long as we're here, my promise is that we won't shy away from getting in good trouble again. Thank you.
Thank you. Yes, Gerlinda, would you like to speak? I haven't seen anybody else. I'm looking at Ben and Charles as well, but go ahead.
I have a question and a comment. So say something else came up with regard to overreach by Metro Legal or Metro Finance. Does this conciliation agreement prevent us from, I watch a lot of Perry Mason, y'all, from this being used in, what's the word, discovery? Can it be subpoenaed or anything like that? Does that preclude us from doing that if it came up again? And then I have a comment.
You fine with me taking this?
Go ahead.
Okay. Okay, if I understand your question, I might be answering a different question, but this is what I'm going to say. Let's see if it answers your question. This is a proposed agreement that was negotiated, and I will say in good faith by all of the participants, to remedy a claim of discrimination in the past. It does have forward-looking and prospective agreement, but it does not hinder anybody, the complainants, you all, from further advocacy on any of the systemic issues, and it does not set any particular precedent if there is another complaint in the future.
It's that. Thank you for that, because that's in addition to what I ask. I'll ask it in a non-Perry Mason way. Can all of this stuff that we gather be used if there were another complaint? Right, even with the conciliation, can the notes, can all of that be used if there were another complaint, or if we wanted to go forward with something else?
It's all public documents.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
So to the, it can be used to the extent that, you know, if you wanted to use it to show
a pattern.
Perhaps.
Yeah. Okay. So let me, I have just one more thing I want to say. I really don't want to vote for this, but I might. But I want to say this. This is not a one-off. This is not a one-off. This is what systemic bias looks like. The power and the money, the legal power and the money are often used used as weapons. And I feel in this case, Metro Legal and Metro Finance weaponized the interpretation of the law and control of public funds to keep their foots on the necks of BIPOC people, LGBTQ people, and other marginalized groups, women, people from outside whose origins are out, well, their recent origins that are outside the United States. I believe that in my soul. And I think that it also served to criminalize anybody who raises a concern about systemic bias. Because what this is, to me, is we are saying to folks, if you don't toe our line the way we want it towed, and if you don't talk the way we want you to talk and present the way we want you to present, we are going to make it very difficult, if not impossible, for you to ply a trade and even live. And this is not a one-off. This is systemic to Nashville. It's systemic to Tennessee, and it's systemic in this nation. I just watched a special tonight about what happened to Jefferson Street and how Jefferson Street used to be a thriving model community in Nashville. And because of urban renewal, by people in power, and those were white people and wealthy people, brought I-40 through there and decimated the community. This is not a one-off. This is an attempt to use money and legalese to try to undermine the agenda of having more voices and more artists in order to let the government, we are really the government, but the folks, to control what arts get funded, what education gets supported, and how the law works in this city and in this metro area. So I am, and to take away money from individual and small nonprofits and give it to big, historically white, historically straight, historically moneyed organizations. And so I want us to be very, very aware that this is not a one-off. This didn't just happen. This is part of a systemic issue of undermining people with less power, less money, and less voice in favor of people with more. And so as I vote tonight, I just want to make sure that, because I'm ready, if I smell it and it kind of smells like it's going to happen again, then I'm ready to pounce. I'm retired in May. I got plenty of time to raise some hell. So, I'm going to knit a little bit, refurnish some furniture, and make Nashville not be so Nashville. So, thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Burton. I want to just chime in and then hear from others, and then go ahead, and I'll chime in after you.
I'll make it quick. I don't want to vote for this either, because I do believe that it is systemic and it is something bigger at play here. It's just the arts agency, the artists that are getting the attention at the moment. Know that we cannot, as someone that hires lawyers, you can only go so far with that, right? And the amount of money that we have spent on lawyers is probably more than what we are awarding the artists. Except for Mel.
Who is doing this under a discount rate?
But collectively, the lawyers got lawyers, so that is expensive. And to see that the artists did not have that type of representation individually, that I know of. It pains me to see that we're going through this. But to our council members that are here, you are not in this by yourself. You know, it's limited on what we can say publicly while we're in the process of selling it. But once we settle, I'll have plenty to say. But we do have a few things that I just, real quick, we still have the issue of the Metro Arts Commission. They're still in limbo. So we're putting the newborn baby in but that's not complete right now. And then we have, you know, we want to make sure that what happens with Metro Legal and Metro Finance, we can't sweep that under the rug, but basically we're at a crossroad of what we can and cannot do at this moment right here. But we do need to hear at some point an airing of what we all know that we're not speaking on publicly, you know, and there are conversations behind the scene as well as what we can say in public. And I'm speaking for myself, that I have said there's a problem here, and we cannot ignore what we smell and what we see. My grandmother always said, high tide raises all boats. But if you don't have a boat, you drown. So we need to make sure everybody is in a boat. And right now, we're not all in a boat on this situation. So I'm troubled by it. I'm going to vote, but I want to express to everyone in this room, I would love to see a public comment where we are getting to the bottom of why you gave that advice the way you gave it. So that's just me.
Thank you so much. I will just, I just want to add, and then I guess we can get a motion. I feel like being in Tennessee and being in Nashville, there's always this decision that you're making, this art you're making about when you take a firm stand on something and when you give and how you do that dance. It's not a science of progress. And I know we've had greats before us that talk about that dance of progress. And when I look back to a year ago, I mean, I could cry for how much we achieved. We're here today saying we want more, but hell if I thought we'd get this. And I want to acknowledge that. That's $2 million, y'all. And I know a bunch of it was allocated, but this is a big fight. And everyone in this room fought so hard. And some have suffered personal, consequences. Many. You're right about power money. It comes in all different forms and it comes at you strong. And I just feel like we need to acknowledge that. This is a big deal. This is not a small deal. And it is incredibly systemic, the way that you say, Garland. It is systemic. And as someone who was birthed out of sweeping change of systems, I am suspicious of that. I am. I think everyone here is committed to systemic change. I think we are. I think everyone here has gotten, our skills have become very honed in the last year of how we smell it and how we see it and what are in between the lines, thanks to y'all's work. We are smarter about all this. Some of us came knowing all this already. None of us are going to sleep on it. We've already taken too many risks and we put too much on the line, I got to say. So I don't think anyone's going to be like, shop's closed. We got all these new commissioners that didn't even know what you're walking into. Okay, so I just want to say this is not small. This is a ton of funding. Is it enough? To Lydia's comment, I mean, all those things that you wanted funded, I want funded in this city right now. But this is not saying that we can't get that funded. And I love that you've opened that up for us as a vision. I didn't even think about papyrus artists. Like, let's get that going, And you brought in so many more people into this conversation that honestly did not know what was going on a year ago and did not know what was going on in the art scene in Nashville a year ago. So a lot has been gained. I'm not sugarcoating it. I agree with Davey. We got to conciliate. We did such good work here, but this doesn't mean it's over. It doesn't mean we're not fighting. Guess what? It just means that we have a new threshold. We have a new ceiling. We have a new floor. That's great. Our ceiling is our floor now. That's huge. So let's start with that. And you can count on us to fight. We built mechanisms, we built ways to fight that we hadn't ever done before. So I'm ready to take this vote, knowing that it doesn't mean that everything is perfect, knowing that we want all artists to live prosperly in this city, but also that this is a gigantic win, and everyone's going to get their funding, from what I understand. So that's where I'm recommending us. I'm happy to hear from you, Whitney, and then we can.
Do we have time for one more?
Sure.
I just wanted to say briefly to the artists, I am new. I've not been here in this fight with y'all up till this point, but I want you to know that your bravery in bringing this complaint before this body was what, and the way that this body handled it and the way that MHRC handled the report was what moved me to want to be a part of this body, to come in from a place where I was always lobbing things from the outside and be a part of the system to work for change. So your work was not in vain. I'm in honor of your bravery, and I'm excited, as the chair just said, to use this as the floor, not the ceiling.
Go ahead, Todd.
All right, so just a question, especially with respect to number 4 in our proposed conciliation. Metro Legal commits to create clearer guidance for the boards and commissions, specifically about the role of Metro Legal in board and commission operations. Can anybody speak to sort of the nature of Metro Legal's authority with respect to the commissions? Where does it come from? What defines the relationship? Is it something in the codes? Is it just... Help me understand.
Well, it's all...
I can't answer the question. I just want to say that I was laughing with you and not at you. I just want to be clear that this is the big question, but I'll let David try to answer that if he wants.
Well, as part of... As part of this conciliation, Commissioner Todd, that will be answered, that they will work out how boards and commissions work with Metro Legal. I'm not in a position to say where Metro Legal, whatever, but part of this, I believe, will help more clearly define what that relationship is.
Okay. And is there another?
I will say, my understanding is that under Metro Code, the Metro Legal Department represents all departments. And we have the benefit of having Metro Legal lawyers who are employed by Metro Legal to advise you all on legal questions that you have. And I'm sitting here now advising you with regard to the Title VI complaint because all the participants, including Metro Legal, agreed that there was a potential conflict for Metro Legal to advise you on the process and procedures around the Title VI complaint. And so when Metro Legal has a conflict, then there is a mechanism for you all to hire outside counsel, and that requires legislation through Metro Council.
Okay.
So there was legislation approving my employment to represent you rather than Metro, it's okay, then rather than the Metro Legal. So to the number 4, it's my understanding that there has been larger discussion with the mayor's office and Metro Legal for broader guidance and training for boards and commissions. And so they have agreed through that process to speak to provide some clearer guidance on what role Metro Legal plays in your policymaking decisions as a body, and that they've also agreed to allow us to have to provide some feedback on what they intend to use.
Okay, thank you. And that sort of drives at the point of my question. It's if I understand the complaints and the sort of procession of events, is it really most appropriate to have Metro Legal create that guidance? To me, I'm sorry, but it almost seems like you leave the fox in charge of the hen house.
Well, if I could.
Go ahead. Go ahead.
Let me just say this to your answer. We were entrusted by you to come up with this document. So what we're asking you, once there is a motion and a second, is an up down on the document.
Okay.
Not a.
Okay. Yes. Go ahead, and then Kosar. Go ahead, Jacqueline. You can speak. I'm looking at you, Alicia. Councilmember Stiles, I'll try to fit you in as well.
Yeah, just before we take a vote, can you remind us what the next step will be? So we'll do with the hands up, hands down, or yes or no. What's the next step? And does it change depending on what the majority vote is in terms of next steps?
Yes, what I think happens next is if you all agree and vote yes to accept these terms in principle, in full conciliation of the complaints. I'd also like some clarity from you all that you will give authority to the staff and to me to negotiate the exact terms, right? To turn these terms, that are in principle into what lawyers call, we're going to paper it, right? We're going to turn this into a legal document for everybody to sign.
And will we see the papered version before it's made official?
You will see it. I'm interested, if you deem it necessary to have an additional vote on the final document, I'll leave that up to you. I would not necessarily recommend that, to be honest. To the extent that you trust that the agreement made in principle is what will be reflected in the final document.
And if I can add this statement, I said earlier, I'm conflicted, but I would not have presented this to you asking that you would approve it if I did not think this was a decent deal. Now, we can roll the dice, but then everything else comes off the table and we're whatever. This doesn't fix it, by no means, but I do think we are aware, we're paying attention, and we're going to keep doing what we're doing. This is, and I think Council Commissioner Jimna said it, and what I heard was, it's deeper than this. It's like a spider web. You hit this tinge over here, and it vibrates way down on the bottom. But we have a look behind the curtain, and I've not forgotten what we've seen behind the curtain.
Director, one question for clarification. I think what I'm hearing is if the conciliation agreement does not pass, is the next step a hearing? And then does that mean all the settlement provisions are off the table at that point?
So to answer the last part first, yes. If there is no agreement in principle on these material terms, then the offer of the make-whole payment is off the table, right? This is a contingent offer, basically. And if you all vote not to accept this agreement in principle, I believe the next step, if you then affirm a previous decision by the commission to proceed with the hearing, then what we will do is proceed to a fact-finding hearing. But I also want to be clear on what the boundaries of that really is. I know that there's a lot of discussion and concern about systemic issues. And I think that this particular complaint and investigation really sort of lays bare what those systemic issues look like in reality. But any hearing on this complaint will be limited essentially to a fact-finding hearing about the complaint itself, right? Not a broad-ranging systemic review of Metro history and how Metro functions. It really will be a fact-finding mission related to this complaint alone.
And $2.3 million committed to the artist would no longer be. Minus what has already been paid.
That's right.
Okay, we're gonna go Kozar, Charles, and then Aaron.
I think the part I'm most conflicted about is, I definitely do think that, the settlement, should go forward and that the artist should be paid. I think in terms of next steps, and maybe I'm just ignorant of the sort of like political structures of national government, but why there hasn't been sort of a path towards like introducing legislation within council to kind of, because there are a lot of gray areas. Metro Legal has this sort of power that, is pretty ambiguous. And so I'm just wondering as to why we haven't pursued sort of legislative action to kind of put these in, these sort of boundaries in place, just because of the fact that Metro Legal has in past have had, bad faith actions, whether it was with, the situation or with the Community Oversight Board and their sort of overstepping and sort of interpretation of the law. And so instead of, we can go through this conciliation process within sort of committees and departments, but I'm just not sure why we haven't gone through a legislative path and to kind of really put a lot of this to bed, because we're going to continue to have these conversations. But if we're going to be in this sort of like there are people's livelihoods who have been on pause for like several months now, and so to the counselors in the room as well, don't know if I think just cutting the snake at its head and just introducing legislation and to kind of put a lot of these things to bed. I just don't know if that's like a path that was considered, but if it should be.
Well, there is a piece of legislation that will require every year that the funding criteria would come back before the council for approval every year. That's making its way through now. So that is a piece of legislation that will keep the cover pulled off of this event that would happen every year, like it had for the last 3 or so decades.
And then I think to the public comments about sort of the reconciliation aspect of just acknowledging the issue, if at the very least, if Metro Legal and the Metro Finance and the Arts Commission aren't taking sort of accountability, I think the buck stops at Metro government. So like, what can council do to maybe address this and, first and foremost, apologize to, all the artists, whether it's like, the mayor himself or the Metro Council itself introduces a resolution or some type of policy or resolution to, I think, indicate that. I think would also maybe help remedy that aspect of it all?
Sure. So I know I'm new, and I don't really know all the aspects of things, but I am also a trial attorney. And so I think with all of the comments that are happening, I'm putting on my criminal defense hat because I'm a criminal defense attorney. And the way I'm ready, and I look forward to voting for this. And I know that it's not perfect. And I kind of take it and look at it from what I would tell my clients on a day-to-day basis. I actually had a conversation with one today just like this. We have to look at what we're presented right now. What is the best option for us and our city and the communities within our city right now with what we're presented? And this is what it is. This creates a package in which our artists get paid. They get acknowledged for the hard work and beautiful work that they do for our community and the incredible gifts that they give our community on a day-to-day basis. It also creates a path that Metro Legal and Metro Finance will have to follow, and we as Metro Human Rights Commission will have to keep them accountable to. And we can, because that's going to be in the conciliation process and agreement. That's huge, just like Miriam said. We know it's not perfect. You know, me going to my client today for stealing a roll of toilet paper and a roll of paper towels and telling him that he has to serve 11 months and 29 days for that isn't fair. It's not what we would want. But he's also charged with multiple felonies. So you either can do that and sit in jail for 9 months maybe, or we can have a hearing which would elongate the process for about 2 years and would cause him havoc for 2 more years and would keep him away from his family for 2 more years at least, because they can't make his bond. That's kind of the decision we have here, right? We have a package. It's not perfect at all. We have systemic racism in our community. We have it in the entire country. We have it in the entire world, let's be clear. And it looks different wherever you're at. But we have the capability of taking the best option for us right now, something that all the parties have at least agreed to. Our attorneys, who I trust implicitly, that we hire because they are the experts in the field, have said this is a good path forward. It is not what we all want, but it's a path, and it gets us halfway home. Just like my client, who took 11 months and 29 days on a criminal theft today, because it gets him home in 9 months versus 3 years. To me, that's what we kind of have to use, and that's the way my brain works, is looking at what is the best path forward. And you can hate my analogy if you want. This is the world that I live in and I work in every day, and it is the saddest thing ever, but that's where my head goes, and that's how I work.
In the interest of time,
Sorry.
and I'll say that the analogy doesn't apply in this situation. No, there's no criminal activity.
No, I know. I'm not using it as a criminal activity.
Right.
I'm using, and the word criminalization was used at some point, but I'm not using it. I'm not using it in that way. I think we need to use what's the clearest and best path for us. And that's
Thank
this.
you. If we could get, can we get a motion for the vote? I forgot. Sorry. He's sitting back so far, you know.
Yeah, I'll be quick. I wanted to take in everyone's comments before I provided mine, since I was a lot closer to the process. And again, appreciate the staff, all the great work they've done, and especially Mel, too, has provided a lot of insight and great work for where we are today. And I just want to level set everyone to embrace that a win is a win. And I think this is a win. It's not perfect, and a lot of times wins aren't perfect. You know, if you're thinking of it in sports terms, we didn't get a blowout win, but sometimes you don't need a blowout win. A win is a win. And I also look at it as, you know, I hear the displeasure from the complainants, from council members, from everyone. I wonder what legal and finance are thinking. Do you think they're sitting around saying, oh, this is great for us? They're probably displeased too, which leads to my comment that if both sides are unhappy, then this is probably the best result, right? And this is only a result for this particular complaint, as Mel said. If there are other issues that come up, nothing prevents us from taking on those issues. And as a matter of fact, this serves as an advertisement that we will take on those issues and we will get to the bottom of them. Also, just to pick up on Mel's point, if we vote no and then we proceed with the hearing, whoever's voting no needs to ask themselves, do they think we'll get a better result from a hearing than what's on the table now? Our powers are somewhat limited to force participants to do anything. It would be strictly fact-finding. There may be facts that people don't want to come out in the public, which may look bad, but that is not going to change the result of what's being presented today, in my opinion. Last thing, and this is just to touch on what, your question about what power does legal have with boards and commissions primarily. I view it legal, not just with boards and commissions, but legal period, only has the power people let them have. All we do is advise. Legal, as an attorney, I just advise clients. And I think that's ultimately the purpose and the point of item 4 on the conciliation agreement, is to make sure boards and commissions know that legal is there to advise and not tell them what to do, because attorneys are advisors. And ultimately, in a nutshell, I feel like that's what the 4th item is about.
I'd like to acknowledge it at 6 o'clock. So if we've got a motion for, okay, great. Can I get a second?
Second.
Anyone again? Oh, sorry. Let's clarify the motion. What's the motion for?
To accept the conciliated agreement as full resolution of the Title VI complaint.
Can you restate it for the
To accept this to accept the conciliated agreement as full resolution of the Title VI complaint.
Before we make the vote, because we were doing a lot of math about quorum before, can we clarify how many votes we need for it to pass and so forth?
Vote and then decide.
Okay.
Well, it may not be.
I second the motion.
Great. Anyone against?
Whoa. No, you need to do roll call here.
Okay, I will roll call. So the motion's been clarified. Was that heard? The motion is to accept the conciliated agreement as has been defined and explained during this meeting.
As full resolution.
Resolution of the Title VI complaint.
Okay, as full resolution of the Title VI complaint. Can I get a motion to vote on I need a motion to vote on it, correct? Or just vote?
No,
we just vote. Okay, then can I have we're going to do a voice vote.
Wait a minute, hold up.
Yeah.
Someone in the committee.
Yeah. That motion needs to come from a committee meeting.
And you need to address your point of order that was brought up. Somebody had a point of order.
Yeah, so, okay, Matthew, please tell us how many people.
Well, no, wait a minute. You got a couple things going on. One is you got a point of order. Let's take care of that.
That's what I'm doing.
Okay, all right.
I'm asking Matthew to clarify the number of votes we need to pass this.
So a majority vote is required of the members present and voting.
A simple majority?
A majority of the members present and voting.
Okay.
So if there are abstentions, they would count towards the total of the members present. If it's a majority of the members who are present and voting.
Okay. The second thing is that I need someone in the commission to make a motion and verbalize what the motion is. And then I will do, if I'm correct, a voice vote on it. Is that right?
Roll
call. A roll call, yeah. And then, Crystal, are you going to call out the roll call? Okay. So can someone provide a motion and voice the motion?
So I'll make a motion to approve the conciliation as written.
Full resolution.
Full resolution as written.
To accept the conciliated agreement as full resolution of the Title VI complaint.
Okay. Do I have to repeat that word for word? Okay. I make a motion to approve the conciliated agreement
As full resolution
of
of the Title VI complaint.
the Title VI complaint.
Yes.
Second.
Okay, thank you for the second. And now Crystal's going to do a roll call vote. If you can turn your mics off so we have it on record when you speak. Turn them on.
Commissioner Tron,
Yes.
Commissioner Apofazi,
Yes.
Pastor,
Yes.
T,
Yes.
Bugs,
Yes.
Galvin,
Yes.
Martin, Commissioner Martin,
No.
Wynn,
Yes.
McKinney,
Yes.
Coleman,
Yes.
Johnson,
Yes.
Trauber,
Yes.
and Stringer. Yes. That is 13 yes and 1 no.
So did it carry? It carried.
Okay, there's a lot of stuff on this. Do we need to handle this today, or can we take it next meeting? I'm requesting that we move the rest to the next meeting.
You're the chair.
All right. Then I would like a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
Second. Anyone against or abstain? All right, motion to adjourn moves.
This has been a service of the Metro Nashville Network. If you would like to see this presentation again, or for more information on this and other programs, visit nashville.gov.